whipped green tea, delicious and soothing, and even joked with us in surprisingly good English. Your long train journey must have tired you, would you like to lie down and rest? No, we're a little tired, but if you don't mind, we've prepared a number of questions on Zen we'd like to ask you. If you don't care to rest, the attendant will take you to the main hall where you can sit and meditate until I dispose of some urgent business. Afterwards we can talk if you like. But we've never meditated in our lives, we wouldn't know how to sit cross-legged. You may sit any way you like, but you must not talk. The monk attendant will provide you with sitting cushions and show you where to sit. He will call you when I can see you again. Sat no. Wriggled wordlessly for 2 miserable hours in dark hall next to P. Concentration impossible, thoughts chasing each other like a pack of monkeys, excruciating pain in legs, back, and neck, desperately want to quit, but if I do before P. does, he'll never stop ragging me, nor will the roshi have a good opinion of American fortitude. At last monk came and mercifully whispered. You may see roshi now. Looked at watch, 9:30. Hobbled into the roshi's room to be greeted with his inscrutable smile and a large bowl of rice with pickles. He watched us intently while we gobbled down the food, then benignly asked. Now what would you like to know about Zen? We're so exhausted that we can only answer weakly. Not a thing. Then. You'd better go to sleep now because we get up at 3:30 in the morning. Pleasant dreams. November 4, 1953. Wake up, it's already 3:45. Didn't you hear the bells and gongs? Don't you hear the drums, the chanting? Please hurry. What a weird scene of refined sorcery and idolatry. Shaven, headed black-robed monks sitting motionlessly chanting mystic gibberish to the accompaniment of a huge wooden tom-tom emitting otherworldly sounds. While the roshi, like some elegantly gowned witch doctor, is making magic passes and prostrating himself again and again before an altar bristling with idols and images. Is this the Zen of Tanka, who tossed a Buddha statue into the fire? Is this the Zen of Rinzai, who shouted, "You must kill the Buddha"? 21. The Kyoto teachers and S were right after all. After breakfast the roshi led us on an inspection tour of the monastery. Set within a horseshoe of rolling hills in the quivering silence of a cultivated forest of pine, cedar, and bamboo, and graced by an exquisite lotus pond, a veritable Japanese Shangri-La, and what a view of Mount Fuji, the majestic sentinel in the sky. If only he doesn't mar it all by insisting we bow down before those images in the halls. Oh my prophetic soul! He's brought us into the founder's room and is lighting incense and fervently prostrating himself before a weird statue of Heikuin. You too may light incense and pay your respects to Heikuin. P looks at me and I at him, then he explodes. The old Chinese Zen masters burned or spit on Buddha statues. Why do you bow down before them? The roshi looks grave but not angry. If you want to spit you spit, I prefer to bow. We don't spit, but neither do we bow. 22. November 6, 1953. P left for Kyoto today, and the roshi invited me to stay on, for all his religious fanaticism and unphilosophical mind. He's a warm, regular guy and I like him. No use fooling myself though, it's going to be rough getting up at 3:30 in the cold, living on a diet of mainly rice, and trying to meditate cross-legged. Can I do it? Do I want to? Still, there's something about all this that's deeply satisfying. Anyway, I'm glad he invited me to stay and I've accepted. November 8, 1953. Roshi says I can meditate by myself in founder's room instead of in the cold zendo. I can sit, kneel Japanese style, or use a chair and wear as much clothing as I please if I'm cold. Have no idea how to meditate, though. When I told Roshi this, he cryptically advised. Put your mind in the bottom of your belly, there's a blind Buddha there, make him see. Is that all there is to meditation? Or is the roshi deliberately letting me stew in my own juice? Carefully inspected Heikuin's features today. They're less grotesque, even faintly interesting. November 10, 1953. Each morning been climbing the hill back of the main hall for a widescreen view of Mount Fuji. Yesterday skipped my meditation because of a headache and Fuji looked somber and lifeless. Today after a couple of hours of good meditation in a chair it's grand and soaring again. A remarkable discovery. I have the power of life and death over Fuji. November 23, 1953. During tea with Roshi in his room today he suddenly asked me, "How would you like to attend the Rohatsu session at Harada Roshi's monastery? The discipline is especially severe during this session. But he is a famous Roshi, a much better teacher for you than I. If you think so, sure, why not? But my old teacher 23 whom you met the other day, is against it. He does not approve of Harada Roshi's harsh methods for inducing satori. A Zen student he thinks should ripen slowly, then like fruit which falls from the tree when ripe, come naturally to enlightenment. Let me meditate further on it." November 25, 1953. Two interesting visitors at the monastery this morning, one a master called Yasudani, the other a layman named Yamada, his disciple, who said he'd been practicing Zen for some 8 years. Wanted to ask him whether he had satori yet, but decided it might prove embarrassing. Asked Yasudani Roshi if he thought I could get satori in 1 week of sesshin. You can get it in 1 day of sesshin if you're genuinely determined to and you surrender all your conceptual thinking. November 27, 1953. How is your zazen coming along? Roshi suddenly asked me today, that Buddha in my belly is hopelessly blind. He is not really blind, he only seems so because he's sound asleep. How would you like to try the koan mu? Alright, if you think I should, but what do I do with it? You know its background I suppose, yes. Then just keep concentrating on Joshua's answer until you intuitively realize its meaning. Will I then be enlightened? Yes, if your understanding is not just theoretical. But how do I concentrate? Put your mind in your hara and focus on nothing but mu. November 28, 1953. Roshi called me into his room this morning and beckoned me to follow him to the little altar shrine and back. Do you see the letter I put into the hands of Canon? You have become karmically linked with the man who wrote it. Let us gosho before Canon out of gratitude. I did a gosho unthinkingly, quickly asked. What's the letter say, who wrote it? And what do you mean karmically linked? The Roshi, outwardly solemn but inwardly animated, merely said, "Come to my room and I will explain." With his usual grace he knelt Japanese style, put the kettle on the charcoal fire for tea, then decisively announced, "I've decided to take you to the Rohatsu session at Hoswinji. This letter has decided me. Tell me what it's all about. Do you remember Yamada-san, the man who came here with Yasudani Roshi the day before? Yesterday? It's from him. He had a deep satori the very day after he left and he tells about it in this letter." 24. Did you say he got satori? Please translate it for me right now. There isn't time. Hoswinji is far from here, on the shore of the Japan Sea, and we must be ready to leave tomorrow. I will translate it for you on the train. November 29, 1953. As our third-class train bounced along in the night, Roshi slowly, carefully translated Yamada's letter. What a vivid, stirring experience, and he no monk but a layman. Do you really believe it's possible for me to get satori during this session? Of course, provided you forget yourself completely, but what is satori anyway? I mean... Stop. Roshi threw up his hand, flashing his inscrutable smile. When you get it you will know. Now no more questions please. Let us do zazen and then try to get some sleep before we come to Hoswinji. November 30, 1953. Arrived hungry and exhausted at Hoswinji in late afternoon. Skies leaden. Air cold and damp. But Harada Roshi was cordial and warm. Greeting me with outstretched hands, later he introduced me to the assistant Roshi and 4 head monks. Though somewhat reticent, they glow with a strong inner flame. Roshi and I retired to the small room we were to share. you'd better get some rest before the battle begins. Battle? Yes, a battle to the death with the forces of your own ignorance. I will call you when everyone assembles in the main hall for final instruction from Harada Roshi, in about an hour. Like lobsters in conclave. Harada Roshi. The assistant Roshi. And 4 head monks in robes of scarlet brocade and arching ceremonial headdress sat on large silk cushions at one end of the hall. While 4 young monks, each with a black lacquer tray on which were placed gold-colored cups, stood poised at the other end ready to serve them. Sandwiched between in rows facing each other across the room knelt some 50 grim lay people attired in somber traditional robes. Their eyes were glued to the floor in front of them, and none stirred to look at Harada Roshi when he spoke except me. Why's everybody so tense and grim? Why do they all look as though they're steeling themselves for some terrible ordeal? True, Roshi said this would be a battle, but surely that was only a figure of speech. How does one fight one's own mind? Isn't Zen Wu Wei, non-striving? Isn't the all-embracing Buddha nature our common possession, so why strive to acquire what is already ours? Must ask Harada Roshi about this first chance I get. Back in our room, Roshi summarized Harada Roshi's instructions. 1. You must not talk or bathe or shave or leave the premises during the week. 2. You must concentrate only on your own practice without diverting your eyes for any reason. 3. You as a beginner have as good a chance as old hands to attain enlightenment at this sesshin. And Roshi added pointedly. But you must work hard, terribly hard. December 1, 1953. Raining incessantly. Zendo uncomfortably cold and damp. Wore long johns and wool shirt and 2 sweaters and wool robe and 2 pairs of wool socks but couldn't stop shivering. Godo's bellowing and roaring more of a distraction than his wallops with kyosaku. Tortured by pain in legs and back, thoughts racing wildly, flopped from agura to seiza to hanka, manipulating my 3 cushions in every conceivable way, but couldn't escape pain. At my first dokusan, Harada Roshi drew a circle with a dot in the center. This dot is you and the circle is the cosmos. Actually you embrace the whole cosmos. But because you see yourself as this dot, an isolated fragment, you don't experience the universe as inseparable from yourself. You must break out of your self-imprisonment, you must forget philosophy and everything else, you must put your mind in your hara and breathe only mu in and out. The center of the universe is the pit of your belly. Mu is a sword which enables you to cut through your thoughts into the realm that is the source of all thoughts and feelings. But mu is not only a means to enlightenment, it is enlightenment itself. Self-realization is not a matter of step-by-step progress but the result of a leap. Until your mind is pure you cannot make this leap. What do you mean by pure? Empty of all thoughts. But why is it necessary to struggle for enlightenment if we already have the enlightened Buddha nature? Can you show me this enlightened nature of yours? Well, no. I can't, but the Sutras say we have it, don't they? The Sutras are not your experience, they are Shakyamuni Buddhas. If you realize your Buddha mind, you'll be a Buddha yourself. December 2, 1953. At 5 a.m. Dokusan told Harada Roshi the pain in my legs was agonizing. I can't go on. Do you want a chair? He looked at me tauntingly. No, I won't use a chair even if my legs drop off. Good. With that spirit you're bound to become enlightened. Terrific whack by the kyosaku just when my concentration was beginning to gel and I fell apart. Damn that godo. Straighten your back, sit firmly, center your energy in your hara, he cries. But how the devil do I put my energy into my